Hey everyone, Rob Orgel here with Spartan Armor Systems. Now, purchasing your kit might be different for you and your specific mission needs. For me, this is how I set up my kit. One, I've got a lightweight system that's for around the house, and if things get bad, you need to respond. I understand I might need an extra magazine. I understand I might need a tourniquet. However, I probably don't need a whole bunch more. Stepping it into the larger scale operations, whether that's militaristic type situations, or that's just going to the range, you have to know you're gonna shoot more than in your home defense situation. So having multiple magazines, having a bonus flashlight, a Leatherman, additional maybe med kit and or tourniquet, these are all things that might be important for that mission, depending upon the severity of it. But again, you've got to know your mission and then what tools might be required for that. So you might choose the larger system that allows the cummerbund to put multiple magazines around your body. You might need more pistol magazines, rifle magazines, or shotgun ammunition. That's specific to your mission. So drilling down into my kit, we've talked about the lighter weight system. Let's talk a little bit more about the heavier system. Personally, I like using the high-speed gear taco pouches. The reason I like them is because it allows me to put AR-15 magazines or switch over to AK-47, and I don't have to pull my kit apart and buy a second set of gear. So this allows me to have some modularity. In addition to that, the ones that have the pistol mag attached to it allows me to put a flashlight, Leatherman, or whatever tools I might need to include a tourniquet. You might want to put pistol magazines in your pistol magazine pouches. For me, I use my pistol belt for that. I like segregating systems in this hops between my lightweight system and my heavy system. I don't change my belt in that process, which also means I don't like having pistol magazines on my rifle kit, and I don't like having rifle magazines on my pistol kit. That's just how I like to set up my gear personally. On my pistol kit, you'll see again the same thing, the magazine pouches where I've utilized one for that additional flashlight, and then you'll also see a pocket knife. Lastly, I like carrying a bonus tourniquet because we don't know how many tourniquets we're going to need. One tourniquet doesn't necessarily solve all of the problems in the day. It could be one casualty needs a secondary or multiple casualties, in which case my tourniquet goes on my belt. Systems that allow you to swap in between are a good idea. This way I can put it on my large pistol belt, I can put it on my concealed pistol belt, or I can snap it right onto my vest. So diving a little deeper into the two kits. One, this is more of a typical home defense situation in my opinion. And this gives me the malleability because there's no hard plate inside here. Instead, it's just the 3A, which is pliable. So now I can move much more freely as I clear my home from a potential enemy. It's not likely in my neighborhood that enemies are going to have AR-15s. If that becomes a common threat, stepping up the kit is a good option. But while I'm on this kit, if I decide that is common enough, running steel plates inside of this certainly is also an option. Now, it being designed for low profile means there's not a ton of space to put a wide ceramic SAPI plate inside of, but it is still thin enough for me to put the 3A or to slip a steel plate inside of there if that rifle threat does exist for those scenarios. On this kit, you'll also see it's a little bit more slimlined. I have one magazine for my rifle and one tourniquet tucked into the side here. This allows me to pull my shirt over it if I'm doing clandestine operations. Moving into my heavier kit, this is much more of a situation where there is rifle threats, where there is multiple threats, because now I've got multiple magazines. You can also see I've got my flashlight, which is a high priority in my opinion. Even if you have one on your hip or on your pistol, it's still a good idea to have an extra one on your vest, because batteries die, and when we depend on it with our lives and those batteries fail, we don't want it to cost us our lives. So I like having a backup flashlight in addition. Next, I've got my Leatherman off to the side here. Now you'll notice that these are inside those same taco pouches that I mentioned before. I like them because they allow me options. So I don't have to buy 3 separate kits, whether I'm running a SCAR 17, an AK-47, or an AR-15. The one kit allows me to run all platforms because of the bungee within that pouch. Also, it allows me to do the same thing with the pistol magazine pouches. It allows me to put a flashlight, a Leatherman, or a tourniquet, whatever tools I find appropriate for my specific mission. So I chose the Tactical Response Kit Carrier because it's so streamlined. Underneath the pouches, you'll find MOLLE gear, so you can set it up for whatever it is you need. Also, they put an admin pouch in the top portion. This allows me to stuff my cell phone or other type gear inside of there. And for me, that just makes a lot of sense for my mission. If you decide you need more MOLLE surface area or a cummerbund, Spartan Armor System has multiple plate carriers for you to choose from. All right, so a common question, medical kits. Do I need them? In my opinion, there's three realistic scenarios. There's the range, there's out and about, and then there's your home environment. And in all of these scenarios, if somebody gets seriously hurt, you should have a med kit and you should have the skills to treat that casualty. Now, where does that place that kit? If you're on the range, that might mean it needs to be on your body. I think having a med kit centerline on the range covers all of our needs, because if there's an emergency, we're gonna get that med kit and get to that casualty. In your home might be different. It might be you by yourself. So some people might suggest that your med kit needs to be on your body. From a military's perspective, there's no question about it. Your med kit stays attached to you, and your team has an enlarged medical bag. This way they can handle greater problems with greater training. When you're out and about, carrying a large medical bag can be a little bit obvious. So it might be a good idea to carry something more streamlined, like just a tourniquet or perhaps a cargo pocket size medical kit. Having that medical kit cargo pocket size and close to you at all times can be the difference of watching the passing of a human being or preserving that life with the equipment and skills that you have. So now that we've seen how we set up my kit, let's take it to the range and see what I see every day as a professional firearms instructor. Some of the commonly made mistakes. Let's make sure we understand them so we can avoid them. This way you get the most out of your gear. All right, so we're here on the range today, and we've sabotaged Jeremy's setup. This obviously isn't how he would set up his kit, but this is from experience. This is stuff we see every single day on the range. So to break this down, first off, you can see there's a bit of a redundancy in the magazines. Is it likely that he's going to need 6 magazines plus the one in his gunfight? Probably not. It's more likely that they're just going to get in the way. So we might choose to reduce the round count, or if you're into military operations, certainly 6 can be fine, but we need to set up this kit just a little bit differently and a little bit more sound. So identifying the MOLLE pouches that we've installed, you can run your hand through the whole thing. So that means the MOLLE has not been woven through his vest. Also on the sides, you can see right through that MOLLE gear, which is where it has not been woven from piece to piece here and then back into the pouch, pinning it to his vest. And here on mine, you can see it has been properly woven. That also can make a lot of unnecessary movement in your magazines, and it can become hard to draw that magazine from the kit because it has so much play. Now moving up here, this is a built-in magazine pouch system, and this allows him to hide magazines within his vest. For some guys, for me, that's just a little bit too high for me to have access to it, so I'd like to set mine a little bit lower. And the retention devices. If you do use those retention devices, it's because you're more likely to accidentally lose a magazine than to use a magazine. And for me, that's not applicable. So I choose to remove these. You don't have to, you can just push them to the sides. It just makes it that much harder to retain your magazine. So for me, I like to permanently remove them. So that's certainly an option. Next, you can see the direction of these magazines. A lot of people like their magazines to uniformly face to one side, and usually it's their non-dominant side for loading of their primary. Some guys like me will put one facing the opposite direction. So from my kit, you can see I'm left-handed, and I primarily do my reloading with my right hand. However, I also train offhand shooting. So when I'm offhand and I run into a reload, I have a magazine ready to reload offhanded. Next is how the bullets face. You can see his bullets are facing up rather than having them down. This is a personal preference thing and how you grab your magazines. For me, I like them to face down because I grab my magazine with what's called a low beer can grip. Also, it keeps debris away from my bullets because things can fall into that magazine, such as sand and dirt, and I don't want that interfering with the operation of my weapon. Next, let's zoom out and look at the whole kit. And you can see his whole kit is sitting just a little bit low. We want our kit to sit real high, and that seems kind of weird at first, but it's because we're trying to protect our hearts and our lungs above everything else. So think about your rib cage. If your plate can cover rib cage, you're doing good. The things down here from the kegs of beer aren't things I need to protect at the same level as I do as my heart and lungs. And if he does a 180, let's take a look at the backside. Here you can see his plate sits a little bit low on the backside. This is where we need to undo these straps and tighten them down. This allows our plate carrier to sit high up front and in back. So where I lifted it in front before, you could see the shift take place. If this shift is happening, it's because you've got lots of magazines on your chest. And as that weighs down the front, it lifts the back and then exposes the top portion of my heart, which is a hazard. Another good way to test this is, in another video, we'll talk about PTing in your kit. And you'll identify this much movement in your kit while you're running is really draining. Also, the forward to back movement of the plate slapping your body can be quite taxing on your run. So you'll find tightening that down will relieve a lot of those discomforts. All right, so another common mistake, or what I might call a preference, is how we set up our pistol belt. One, we need to still have access to our pistol, and sometimes when our plates sit a little bit low, we get in the way of drawing that pistol. And knowing that if I'm going for my pistol, my carbine has failed and things have really gone south. so I need nothing in the way of accessing that firearm. So one, I want the kit to sit high and completely out of the way, and two is I don't like to have any extra things near my pistol, because as I'm going to grab that pistol, regardless of what position I am in, I don't want to interfere with anything that could possibly slow down my draw. So that leads me to take medical kits, tourniquets, anything else, and push it to the entire other hemisphere of my belt. So you'll see on the right hemisphere of my belt, there's nothing but a pistol. And on the left hemisphere of my belt is all the other things that I might need to keep that pistol fighting or to apply a tourniquet. Because if the tourniquet is coming out, that means the gunfighting has calmed down. So this is how I've set up my Spartan Armor system. Certainly there are plenty of options for you as you set up your kit given your specific mission. Hopefully this gives us the knowledge and confidence at purchase to find the right gear for us, the right pouches, and hopefully avoid those common mistakes.